Hi, I'm Dion Tan Hongwei from 6S5. Today, I'm going to talk about cultural heritage. We often hear about the importance of cultural heritage, but what is cultural heritage? And whose heritage is it? Whose national heritage? For example, does the Mona Lisa by Leonardo da Vinci belong to? Is it French or Italian? First of all, let's have a look at the meaning of the words. Heritage is a property, something that is inherited, passed down from previous generations. In the case of cultural heritage, the heritage doesn't consist of money or property, but of cultural values and traditions. Cultural heritage implies a shared bond, our belonging to a community. It represents our history and our identity, our bond to the past, to our present and the future. Cultural heritage often brings to mind artifacts like paintings, drawings, prints, mosaics, sculptures, historical monuments, and buildings, as well as archaeological sites. But the concept of cultural heritage is even wider than that, and has gradually grown to include all evidence of human creativity and expression such as photographs, documents, books, and manuscripts, either as individual objects or as collections. Today, towns, underwater heritage, and the natural environment are also considered part of cultural heritage since communities identify themselves with natural landscape. Moreover, cultural heritage is not only limited to material objects that we can see and touch. It also consists of immaterial elements like traditions, oral history, performing arts, social practices, traditional craftsmanship, representations, rituals, knowledge and skills transmitted from generation to generation within a community. Intangible heritage, therefore, includes a dizzying array of traditions, music, and dances. But cultural heritage is not just a set of cultural objects or traditions from the past. It is also the result of a selection process, a process of memory of oblivion that characterizes every human society, constantly engaged in choosing for both cultural and political reasons what is worthy of being preserved for future generations and what is not. All people make their contribution to the culture of the world. That's why it's important to respect and safeguard all cultural heritage through national laws and international treaties. Illicit trafficking of artifacts and cultural objects, pillaging of archaeological sites, and destruction of historical buildings and monuments cause irreparable damage to cultural heritage of a country. United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, founded in 1954, has adopted international conventions on the protection of cultural heritage to foster intercultural understanding while stressing the importance of international cooperation. The protection of cultural property is an old problem. One of the most frequently recurring issues in protecting cultural heritage is the difficult relationship between the interests of the individual and the community, the balance between private and public rights. The term cultural heritage typically conjures up the idea of a single society and the communication between its members. But cultural boundaries are not necessarily well defined. Artists, writers, scientists, craftsmen, and musicians learn from each other, even if they belong to different cultures, far removed in space or time. Just think about the influence of Japanese prints on Paul Gauguin's paintings, or of African masks on Pablo Picasso's works. Or you could also think of Western architecture in Liberian homes in Africa. When the freed African American slaves went back to their homeland, they built homes inspired by the neoclassical style of mansions on American plantations. American neoclassical style was in turn influenced by the Renaissance architect Andrea Palladio, who had been influenced by Roman and Greek architecture. Let's take another example, that of the Mona Lisa painted in the early 16th century by Leonardo da Vinci and displayed at the Louvre Museum in Paris. From a modern point of view, whose national heritage does the Mona Lisa belong to? Leonardo was a very famous Italian painter. That's why the Mona Lisa is obviously part of the Italian cultural heritage. When Leonardo went to France to work at King Francis I's court, he probably brought the Mona Lisa with him. It seems that in 1518, King Francis I acquired the Mona Lisa, which therefore ended up in the royal collections. That's why it is obviously part of the French national heritage too. This painting has been defined as the best known, the most visited, the most written about and the most parodied work of art in the world. As such, it belongs to the cultural heritage of all mankind. Cultural heritage passed down to us from our parents must be preserved for the benefit of all. In an era of globalization, cultural heritage helps us to remember our cultural diversity, and its understanding develops mutual respect and renewed dialogue amongst different cultures. Thank you, that's all from me.